All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew. I love the smell of queef in the morning.
The boys are back in town.
Yeah, we are.
Back on the podosphere.
I was literally just saying before we hit record, it does feel like it's been
a while. It has been a
like,
while. It has.
But it's only been 2 weeks, really.
Yeah, 2 weeks of non-release.
Yeah.
Two and a bit, 3 maybe?
It's coming up for the third week, so when we release one this week...
Oh, so it will just be 2 weeks?
Sort of, technically.
Oh, yeah.
It's a grey area in between.
It depends on your mathematical...
Yeah, how you like
stance.
to analyse the data.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing we know, there's more than one way to analyse the data.
Many ways.
I'm forever crunching those numbers.
Are you a big number cruncher?
I am. I love crunching.
I see you crunching so hard.
Crunching, squatting, you know, all of it.
All of the math workouts.
Well, and also I think it's very high level maths if you can squat and do maths at the same time.
Well, you sort of do. I mean, you got to count them.
Yeah.
So that counts.
Yeah. But no, I'm doing literal squats while I
so you got
I count my numbers.
2, 3.
No, but it's more advanced if you're going to the higher numbers. Do you know what I mean?
Or what about if you're just doing like prime numbers or something?
Well, no, I normally do like 1,000, 2,000.
Big boy numbers.
Exactly.
Big boy maths.
That's the way I do things. I'm like Donald Trump like that.
The best. You're the best.
100%.
You're the best at maths.
I would try and do the accent, but I've got a fucking cold again.
Donald Trump created a new word, by the way?
No.
Yeah, he created this new word and he told us all I've created a new word, equalising. Turns out it's already in the dictionary. He must have got there earlier.
Say, isn't that a word?
He must have got there a lot earlier.
Yeah.
I thought that existed long before, but he's told us that he created it.
Yeah, well, look, I just think we're getting to a point now where it's best to just accept these are the things that are happening.
For sure. The Chinese proverb rings ever true, right?
What one's that?
May you live in interesting times.
Yeah.
You know, that curse.
No.
Do you remember that during COVID, everyone was saying like, "Oh, now I understand why the Chinese curse proverb thing is
what
so
is this
true."
Chinese
Well, they say,
curse?
"I hope the curse is to say to someone like, may you live in interesting times," and it's like, yeah, because we're living in interesting times and they're shit.
Okay, fair enough. No,
I want stuff to not happen for a bit.
It would be nice, wouldn't it? It'd be nice to just have a peaceful couple of weeks where nothing noteworthy happens.
It would be lovely.
I mean, it'd be shit for the pod, genuinely.
But it would be lovely.
It'd be lovely for us personally and for the world in general. I feel like we've been through a lot.
How have you been?
Yeah, all right, mate. I mean, like a lot's been going on off pod, but like you were off working, and I was like, I've got a lot going on, so I'm just going to have a couple of weeks off. And
yeah, listen, no need to justify it at all.
So, but no, I'm doing all right. I've got a bit of a cold at the moment.
We can hear.
But outside of that, I'm doing well. I mean, when I'm not engaging with current events, I'm doing well.
It's bleak, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty bleak. But we'll get on to that.
Yeah,
How
sure.
have you been?
I've been good, mate.
How was your trip? Where did you go? Who did you see?
Trip was all right. There's a couple of challenging
weird
parts of it,
German
but it was good.
Or Dutch
No,
lesbians?
oh my God, no. Yeah, the Spanish German lady. No. We did. I started joined a band.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me. We've done it before.
We went to a bar in Edinburgh. I was a bit drunk at this point. So what happened was we'd gone to this one
So
bar.
you're not literally part of the band.
So we'd gone to this one bar, and my driver was like, "I'll meet you there."
Right.
And we were like, "Yeah, cool." And when I went to that one bar, the only thing that was on tap there that I liked was Guinness.
Okay.
So now I don't like to mix drinks. So now I'm committed to Guinness for the night.
Okay.
Palace were on the telly.
Yeah.
I sat and watched the Palace game, waiting for my driver. He's not turning up. I've had a couple in the first bar. We go to the next bar. He eventually turns up. In fact, he turns up. We have one more.
Okay.
We go to the next bar.
Yeah.
Which was just like a really cool. There was like a lot of dancing going on, but it was like not
This was in
freeform
Edinburgh, did you
dancing.
say?
Yeah, it's not like freeform dancing. The band on stage would literally tell you what to do, how to dance. It was more like a bit line dancing ish.
Okay.
But very, very fun. Had a couple there. Then went to this other venue, and they were doing like an open mic night thing.
Okay.
So we sat and watched an act. Had another couple there. I'm a little bit drunk at this point.
And you don't drink that much. It's
No.
just a lot of drinking.
No,
for you.
and it's Guinness.
I think, to be honest, I'd struggle with that level of drinking.
And Because the problem is, every time I turned around, my driver just had another drink in my hand.
Okay.
And I was just like, right, well, okay, I guess I'm drinking that because I don't like waste. You and I know I don't like
No,
waste.
but also you're quite stubborn. So like, if you don't want to drink, I know what you're like. You would refuse a drink.
Yeah, but I'd had enough to drink at that point that I was
in the
like,
mood for it this evening.
So we had and then my driver plays guitar.
Okay.
And piano as well, but he'd gone up and said something to the guy, and the guy behind the bar, it was like, basically, it was only a couple of other people. It was like our little group and then a couple of other people in this room, and he'd said he'd managed to work it. He was like, get up on stage and he'll play. So he got up on stage, he's like, I need some support, and there was a drum kit there, so I was like, fuck it, I've always wanted to have a go on the drums.
Okay.
I'm on drums. So I staggered into the back of the room, had drums, and then one of my passengers got up and sang
Okay.
for a little bit. And we
What
just,
did you guys perform?
we just kind of jammed. I don't really know, if I'm honest.
How did you do on the drums?
Poorly,
Yeah.
quite frankly. The bass drum I was able to use to keep time, but everything else I hit, it just didn't sound right.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It just sounded odd. I was like, no, it's not how I expected it to sound.
No.
So a bass drum, and I had a little bit of the cymbals going on, and I kept time-ish. There were parts where I stopped and had to start
But
again.
you were also shitted, so you could have been absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, and do you know how this is? And I was so embarrassed by this, but this is how drunk I was at the end, because then we had another, like, more drink.
Yeah.
And a band came in and played, so we watched them and had a drink and stuff, and then someone else came in and did a set, and then there was one member of the band and the other guy from before who'd done a set, so they'd kind of just were pissing around on stage,
Yeah.
and they were like, does anyone want to come up and join? And I went, fuck it, go on then. That's how you know I'm drunk. And I stumbled on my way out to the stage, and the barman, who was sort of like wandering around at that point, he was like, yeah, you need to go and have some water and stand outside before you even think about getting up on that stage.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And I went outside, and it suddenly hit me. And I was like, the fuck am I doing? I'm embarrassing myself. So I was like, right, I'm going to go. I'm going to call it a night. So that was fun.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you had a good time.
Yeah, it was interesting.
So that was the highlight of the trip, was it?
It was a very good night. It was a very good night. I also, because he's Romanian, and we met up with some of his Romanian friends in Dublin. He used to live in Dublin, and had like this really lovely pork cabbage dish.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
I like the Romanian people.
They're good people.
Yeah, I've worked with quite a few of them.
And then obviously I've been busy since, but yeah, it's been a nice
Yeah,
trip.
you've been to Paris since with your good lady person.
Yeah, to celebrate our anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. But do you know what made me chuckle was, I think no one appreciates how all of her mates and her work colleagues and stuff don't really know how sort of impulsive and spontaneous I am.
Yeah.
So for me, we said like, she said like, I've never been to Paris, and she's like a big Disney fan. She always wanted to go to Disneyland. And so I just went, oh, fuck it. Why don't we just do it?
Yeah.
That's how I roll.
Yeah.
And then within a
I'm
couple
not
of
that
weeks,
impulsive.
no, and then within a couple of weeks, budgeted it and stuff and priced it up and gone like, I think we can make this work.
Yeah.
So we did it.
Nice.
That's how I operate. Literally every one of her friends was like, oh, is he going to propose? And I'd never even put two and two together in my head.
When I told my sister you went to Paris,
She said
for
the
your
same
anniversary,
thing?
she said, has he proposed? And I was like, I mean, like, look, it's Jake, so it's possible. I don't know, but I don't think so.
No, and that I was like, I think the first time she told me, she was like, oh, someone said you're going to propose. And I said, well, I can't now.
Did she think you were going to propose?
No, I don't think so. Unless that was her dropping a hint. No, I think she'd never let me propose unless she'd picked out the ring anyway.
You reckon?
Yeah.
She picky?
She she knows what she likes.
Okay.
This is what she likes.
Diplomatically put.
um,
You're learning. I'm impressed.
But yeah, once she said it, I was like, shit, yeah, I see how that looks. You're going away for an anniversary to Paris.
Like, that's something I think
it's so cliched, I'd never do it, by the way.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that particularly though. If
No, it's just not for me.
like say for example you guys had an amazing time there this time and you were like, oh, we've got to come back one day. I don't think there'd then be anything wrong with you proposing to her. But even if you had decided to do it this time, like I don't, just because it's cliche.
No, I know, but
it's not nice.
I don't want. That's not how I'd want to do it.
What sort? I mean, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah,
now.
I don't know.
What's the sort of way you would like to do it?
I don't know. It would be very probably impulsive, and by that I don't mean I'm just going to be walking around. I'm like, fuck it, now's the time. It would be like, right, I'm doing it next week, and this is what we're doing, kind of thing. Like, I don't.
I always thought people made a big deal out of proposing, and then it can't.
Is that why you tried to downplay yours a little bit?
A little bit, and but also because my original plan got fucked on the day.
Yes.
So me and Leanne, we were going to, where were we going? We were going to see Michael McIntyre, I think. And we were like, why don't we make a day of it, go out for the day in London? And Leanne had graduated at the old Naval College. So I was like, I might propose there.
And that's beautiful up there as well.
We've
been
there for a concert. It's absolutely stunning. She loves it there. Has really good memories for her. So I was like, that'd just be a nice place to propose.
I agree.
If it's not too busy or crowded, I'll just, we get there and there's so many people. I've never seen this many people there. And we go in and there's filming going on. And the scene being filmed is someone being hung. Or over
so
and
romantic.
over and over again. And we just sat there and I was like, what are the fucking chances the day I choose to propose? And we found out it's for Poldark in the end. So I didn't do it there and I ended up just doing it outside of the O2 before we went in. And yeah, I pretended to get something out of my bag or tie my shoelace or something, and then she looked down and I had
the ring.
So, yeah.
It's very sweet. I did bend down to tie my shoelaces on the first night because I had to.
I hope by the Eiffel Tower or something.
Literally right in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Fantastic.
Right on the Champ de Mars.
The only thing is, the longer you two are together, the less you can make those sort of jokes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, before it actually becomes where the fuck's my ring?
Or before she starts being like, this is really a mean thing to do. You can get away with it on your 1 year anniversary. I think after that, it gets a bit more dangerous.
I said to her, I was always going to. So she took a picture and sent it to her mates and was like, dickhead, just tied his shoes.
Yeah. I also I don't know, if it was me, I wouldn't have, the thought hadn't even entered my head. Do you know what I mean? So
me neither.
Even if you'd have told me beforehand, I'm taking my lady to Paris for our anniversary, I wouldn't have even thought to ask, were you proposing? Or,
nope.
So it just shows how different women are.
Yeah.
Because we just, I don't know, I think it's like that meme, isn't it, of a man and a woman lying in bed together and she's like, what's he thinking about? He's been distant all day. Is he been seeing another one? And there's this whole monologue and it's just him being like, I can't believe my wonder kid got injured for a year on Football Manager or something.
Yeah. Yeah, where did Michu go after Swansea? Where was it?
Yeah.
Was it Spain? Was it, that's the kind of things. Yeah.
But no, fair enough. So no, you're not engaged.
Not engaged. But yeah, no.
Was she disappointed that you didn't get engaged?
Not at all.
Okay, good.
Honestly, though, when she said it, I was like, yeah, I see it. Actually, I'm slightly surprised I didn't see it sooner, but I just didn't think of it.
No,
did not even occur to me.
No, but you should be allowed to just go away for a nice time
And we did have a nice time. We packed a lot in. We had some lovely food.
How long did you go for?
3 days, 4 days,
nice.
4 days. We went on Friday, and we basically just got there in time. So we had checked in at the hotel, had dinner. The part we were staying in as well, it was great because the restaurants we went to, it was all French. There was no English people, tourists around. It was just French people speaking French. It was
horrible.
Disgusting. Then we wandered up to the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
Saw it at night, just kind of get it out of the way kind of thing. Went back,
so
stopped
romantic. Just get it out of the way.
Stopped off at
wind up my missus.
Stopped off at a cute little bar for a drink on the way back, and then back to the hotel, and that was it really for the first day.
Cool.
Second day we just went, saw everything, and then the third day, the Sunday, we just went straight to Disneyland. Checked out the hotel, straight to Disneyland.
Nice.
They got a good system up there in the hotels. I'll give them their dues.
Have they?
So we got there about 11:30ish. Went to, so we checked our bags, which was a huge queue. Obviously, a lot of people are just turning up. All free. Then we went to the...
But I'm assuming you couldn't check into your room.
Well, this is the thing. So we went to the check-in bit because we were like, go and find out what's what. They gave us, so your room key is also your pass to the parks. So you can use a QR code on your phone, or you can just place your room key face down on the scanner and it will let you in the park that way.
What, like a public park?
No, the Disney park.
I was so confused. I was like, what park is he talking about?
Obviously.
Oh, so you were at a Disney hotel?
We were at a Disney hotel, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
And then they just basically, the rooms aren't, the rooms aren't ready till 3 like most hotels. But then what they do is they just...
That really pisses me off, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
I went to Brighton with Leanne for a weekend, and The check-in was 4 o'clock.
That's
and
late.
then it wasn't ready for 2 hours after that.
That's ridiculous.
And it was like, what
am I paying for?
Yeah, in the end they took our bags, like, fortunately, because it was like, well, we want to go do shit. Do you know what I mean?
Most hotels will keep your bags for you.
But why does it take hotels so long to like, I don't know, like they get you to check out like fucking 10 in the morning most of the time.
Do you know what I'm really lucky with on my trips a lot of the time is when I call ahead, like a couple of days before kind of thing, and say, look, we're going to be here at like
They'll
2.
make sure they're ready.
Most of the rooms, if not all of the rooms, are generally ready by the time I get there. But there's one hotel that we used to use on the UK trip, and it's probably the nicest hotel we used. But we make sure to get there for 3 because the rooms, you could call all you want, the rooms were never ready before, and then half the rooms still weren't ready.
Like a British hotel thing that they're just like, you're not having your room till this evening.
But then the rooms still weren't ready, and you'd have people. And it was in Cardiff. You're only in Cardiff for that afternoon, so you want to make the most of it. And people hanging around because it's like, any minute now, I don't know. I don't know when your room will be ready.
And then that reflects on you because you're running a trip, aren't you?
Well, I always just say, like, whatever rooms aren't ready, it's like, just dump your bags and go exploring it, and you can come back here this evening. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But yeah. What are we talking about? How do we get onto hotels? Oh, the Disney hotels. Yeah, because then they text you or email you. But I got both. But they text you to say your room's ready, and they've already activated your key card, so you just go straight to your room.
Okay.
When you get back.
What, because do they take your bags to the room, do they?
They can do, if you've paid for it. But we just went and picked ours up. There was no queue then. And also you can do a bag drop at the hotel when you check out, and for €10 per person, which we didn't do because like no, you can pick it up from the train station.
Okay.
But it's like a 10-15 minute walk between our hotel and the park, and the shuttle bus that runs just literally on a loop takes like 2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If that's just like, well, we'll just get the shuttle bus back, pick up our bag for free, and then go on our way.
Nice. That sounds like a lovely trip, mate.
Yeah, it was. It worked out well.
And it feels good to be back at the mics.
Feels good to be back at the mics. I'm sort of basically just trying to avoid talking about the bleakness of the world.
Well, look, we might as well. I mean,
there's been a lot of news and not a lot of it's been good.
Well, look, one of the losses while we were away was our Holy Father.
Yeah, do you want me to bust it out?
Pope Francis.
Is it just called Ripper? No, I've got it. Should we do it?
Yeah. Pope Francis.
The holiest of holies.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
He's gone to the big chapel in the sky. I don't know where you go when you die.
I think he's just gone to see his mate. Do you know what I mean? He's gone to see God.
I thought you meant the German fella.
I mean, yeah, they were mates. You thought I was making that up when I brought that up last time.
What, that they were mates?
No, that there was 2 popes at the same time.
No, because I thought you meant 2 active popes.
No,
I know there were 2. I know he was Pope in name.
Yeah, because you're not allowed to actually resign.
It's meant to be
Pope.
to death.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, even there's a film about it, the 2 popes, and in it, Pope Francis, or he isn't Pope at the time, but says to the Pope, he's like, you're meant to suffer. That's the whole gig. You're supposed to understand what Jesus went through, dying for our sins.
Although, interestingly, Pope Francis, before he went, after he'd been elected, but before he went and went through the whole rigmarole and actually introduced himself to the crowds, he went to the little gardens in the sort of grounds there up by the Santa Casa Maria or wherever it was. And
God, I can tell you do tours now. You can pronounce this shit.
And he had a little moment of prayer in there. And apparently when he came out, he said he just felt free of any weight. Yeah. He just felt completely calm and at peace. I mean, and he said it never left him, apparently.
By all accounts, he was a nice bloke. Like, from the film, they give you a fair amount of his life story. He was a Jesuit priest for a while, and then he became the head of the Jesuit arm of the church in, is it South America or Argentina?
Argentina, wasn't it? Yeah. But he was, yeah.
But then there was a lot of controversy because he didn't stand up for the Jesuit priests when they were being killed by the dictator in Argentina, and he sort of got outcast, and then he got sent to the almost wilderness to a degree, and then he sort of restudied, found his faith again. And I mean, I know they're building him up in it, but by all accounts, the stuff I've heard about him is that he was one of the nicer popes, I guess, and he was understated. Like, apparently he didn't live in the traditional papal palace. He lived in a smaller, more humble residence nearby. He's had a much more scaled back funeral than the average pope.
Well, he wanted to be buried at the church around the corner in Rome, not actually in the Vatican, like in a wooden box.
I think just Franciscus on
his... just like a wooden coffin, nothing fancy, nothing.
Apparently the Pope's normally in 3 coffins, apparently, to symbolise 3 different things. But so he seemed like, on the face of it, like he sort of got it, I guess, like got the messages that were meant to be handed out and passed on, I suppose. From afar, I can't really say for sure. No, I mean, look, we're not Catholics. We don't follow like, we jokingly do the stuff for some reason. It's just something we started doing. But what was funny was when we were texting about it, and I was like, well, it's not, because we were talking about conclave as well, weren't we? And I was talking about how, like, the American accents were taking me out of the realism of the characters. Yeah,
because in the book they are Italian,
African.
Canadian, African. They never specify where.
No, it's just African
and Filipino.
Yeah, and the main characters that are all meant to be Italian all have American accents. And that's including Ray Fiennes, who's a Brit.
Who's Cardinal Lawrence in the film, but he's Cardinal Lamelli in the
that's why they changed the name in the film then, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit.
But the film was good, but I would say... But my point I was making was that, well, an American's never going to be Pope. So, like, it makes it less realistic. And then you sent me,
in that message, you said, in brackets, you did say, you were like, cue you telling me one of the favourites is an American.
And then literally, I think the next day it was announced an American had been elected as a new Pope. And his name was Robert Prevost, but he's now Pope Leo XIV.
I should say he's American. He was born in America, in Chicago, but he spent most of his life and most of his religious life elsewhere.
Oh, yeah, they normally do, don't they? They get given a mission somewhere or a congregation as a cardinal.
The only mission from God, in a Christian Catholic sense, that I've ever truly been behind is the Blues Brothers.
The Blues Brothers?
They go on a mission from God to save the orphanage.
Oh, do they?
Everywhere.
I don't think I've ever seen the Blues Brothers.
Oh, it's so good.
I remember dressing.
The music is very good, and it's silly, it's fun,
but
it's daft.
We have a new Pope.
They outwardly declare Nazis as the bad guys, which I think back in the day used to just it didn't mean anything. Yeah. Now I think it's quite a valuable thing to add onto your film to make a stance and go, we acknowledge Nazis are bad.
I love that meme of Webb and Mitchell.
Oh yeah,
are we the
baddies? It's just we've got skulls on our caps, and it's such a good It's a very, very good little sketch.
But look, we've danced around. I mean, look, it's
the Pope. And what name did he choose? Did he choose Pope Leo the 14th? 14th, yeah.
Yeah.
What would be your papal name, do you think?
I'd want to choose one that no one...
You'd want to be a first.
I'd want to be the first. Of course you want to be the first. I don't want to be another dick. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There must be some Pope Richards.
Don't know. I know.
If there isn't, maybe I'd be Pope like Richard.
Pope Pius or Pope Innocent. I think Pope Innocent, the most popular. There's like 24 of them or something.
Yeah, and also famously, people in the Catholic Church aren't that innocent.
No, originally
it's an ironic name, I guess.
Just in our lifetimes, sexual abuse scandal of minors, followed by financial scandals in more recent years.
Yeah,
it's not good.
No, and that like the covering up of it was that was the whole reason the Pope resigned in the first place, was that and the financial stuff that came out. So yeah.
Live and learn.
What about you? I like the idea, if there's not been a Pope Richard, which I don't think there will have, behind closed doors I'd be saying to the Cardinals it's Pope Dick, yeah?
I'd go quite bold, I think. Pope Jesus. That's probably not allowed, but unless it's in the rules.
That'd be taking the Lord's name in vain, isn't it?
It's in homage.
No, but that's taking it in vain, because you're putting yourself on the same level as Jesus. That's blasphemy.
Fine, Pope God.
No.
The same issue.
They're all what? The Son, the Father, and the Holy Spirit.
Pope
it's
Joseph.
I think you could probably
I don't think there's ever been a Pope Joseph, actually.
Should I Google that? Has there been a Joseph Pope?
I don't think there has been a Pope Joseph.
This is what I love about Google. You can just put random shit in there.
Should we see if Google will sponsor us?
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
That'd be nice. We would just be a drop in the ocean of Google. Pope. Don't know what else my papal name would be.
There has.
There has been just one.
Pope Joseph I of Alexandria, 52nd Pope of Alexandria and Patriarch C. St. Mark. He was son of one of the rich nobles of Maynooth in Egypt.
So what? Hang on. So what year would that have been? What year would he have been Pope?
I don't know. 831.
Okay, yeah, fine.
And it ended 18 years later on the 2nd of November.
Fine.
So sorry, there's been a Pope Joseph. Shall I see if there's been a Pope Richard?
What? Yeah. What about Pope? I don't know. Try and pick a celebrity name or something.
No, there's no Pope Richard.
So you could be Pope Richard. You could be Pope Dick.
I could be Pope Dick.
Yeah, I'll be Pope Fanny then.
I'm not even going to Google that. I know there's not been a... No,
I bet there's a film.
You need to think of a longer name.
Fannius.
Pope Fannius the First. Well, look, we're breaking new ground. You said you always wanted to be a trendsetter.
I think the church will wholeheartedly endorse us.
Pope Fannius. Imagine they're like, so actually, we searched your archives. There's been 2 already.
I would be.
But and they're like, you've already submitted the name, so we can't change it. So you're now Pope Fannius the Third.
I'd be the first Pope to stand out on the balcony and be like,
But yeah. What would you? While we're on it, we might as well. What would you do with the power of the Pope? Like, what direction would you want to take the church?
I'd be very progressive. I think we can all accept that my left-wing radical hippie views, my woke views. I'd let women be cardinals.
Yeah.
I'd let women be Pope.
There was a female Pope once. She got murdered as soon as they found out.
But I'd be like, yeah, let them in. Let them all in. I'd again ring the drum for the gay community, the LGBT community and wider.
You might be, I was about to say, the first assassinated Pope. I bet there's been...
Oh, yeah. I'd also do what the Pope Leo the 14th has done in calling out the atrocities in Gaza.
Oh, has he?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. I saw some memes and stuff online about, you know, all the MAGA people who were like, you know, we're super Christian and stuff, and they're like, is the Pope... You know, is it us that's wrong? And it's no, the Pope's wrong. The Pope must be wrong.
Well, yeah, of course.
No,
I think I'd.
What would you do?
I'd do the same. I'd want to have the papacy be in service of the people rather than the people be in service of the papacy.
I'd also say
I'd also unlock those fucking Vatican archives, and I'd be down there.
Oh, in a heartbeat.
Delving
heartbeat.
Deep. And anything like that made the religion question, that's fucking going out into the open for people to see. Do you know what I mean?
In a heartbeat, I'd be down there. And also, I think I'd be like, look, the music is outdated. I know it's traditional, but I've got in a fella here. His name's Little John, and I've got him to write some new, updated beats for the church.
Podcast talk about like what they would do with hymns and stuff. And one of them was like they would change "It's getting hot in here" into "It's getting God in here."
I'm all for it.
Getting so God, I'm gonna take my robes off.
Oh, I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
And no, absolutely. I think it's such a rich tapestry of music out there to make it like. And if anything, that would be us using a bit of like mind games to indoctrinate people into the church.
You could just
with
change
modern music.
You could change Little John's shots. You could just shout cross. Cross, 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 cross. Everybody!
Yeah, look, it works.
The church is not modern enough.
Yeah.
You know, they're so focused on the political aspect, they've forgotten about all other aspects.
Yeah, no, totally. Look, I would work with Eminem. I'd get him to lay down some religious tracks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Eminem, the God Years.
Yeah, I would reach out to like a heavy metal band, death metal
Arguably, though, him calling himself Rap God might be a little bit
No,
contentious.
but we'd have to get him to walk back on that a little bit.
Well, you'd okay.
But look, no, I think as the Pope, I'd be entitled to say, like, no, I think he is a rap god. He's not up there with the god.
I can't remember if I said this
God would smite him
you
in a rap battle.
or whether someone else. But one of my favourite Pope Francis things, and I was like, when I found
I like
out
the fact you've got favourite moments of Pope Francis.
No, but when I found out, I was like, that's an incredible moment, and I'm here for it. Is when he just came up with the ultimate excuse. He chatted the top shit. Like, you can see why he's Pope. He's top of the castle because he was caught asleep in mass or something.
Okay.
And they said, is that a bit wrong? Should you not be awake and penitent? She said, does God not love when his children fall asleep in their arms? Is that not sorry, to fathers? Do fathers not love when children fall asleep in their arms? And I am merely falling asleep in the arms of God, therefore he is. And I was like, that is some top
The thing is, the one thing you'll find
chat.
if you listen to a really articulate religious person is they have just a good way to bullshit in terms of interpreting. Like, you could give them like a negative scenario and they'll find a way to spin it into this is why you should believe in God. It's just, you've got to be a good salesman. Do you know what I mean?
Ultimately, you are just a good salesman.
And I think that's actually sort of a way he talks about it to the Pope before he becomes Pope.
But you've got to be quite a clever salesman but basically not Trump.
Yeah.
Don't bulldoze in there.
Well, he's not even a talented salesman, to be honest with you. All he's done, because I've watched like documentaries about his business life, where it's like all he's ever done is build his name and then sell the name. There's no actual clever business strategy.
I've always said it's.
I'm even doing the hand movements.
It's. Have you ever seen the Always Sunny in Philadelphia when they become real estate agents, Dennis and Mac, and they're basically. Mac just like proper goes all aggressive. He's like, "Are you buying the house? Are you buying the house? Are you going to buy the house? You're going to buy the house?" And they're like, "Yes." And he's like, "That's legally binding. That's legally binding. You've bought the house. You've bought the house." And he's like, "Yeah, high five, sale made. Well done, guys. Congratulations on your new house." That's sort of Trump's approach.
Yeah. But like, he's had huge business failures.
Who bankrupts a casino?
That's really
like they're literally money makers.
Yeah.
How?
I don't know.
It's honestly baffling.
It's the Donald, isn't it?
The Donald. Yeah, it is.
But like, you can then use it as an example. Like, rich people don't go broke the same as
poor people.
Go broke. But speaking of poor people, Jake, it's a good segue.
Yes.
Let's get into the really, like, we've spent half an hour avoiding current events and what's going on.
Sure.
Let's talk about it.
Sure.
Let's put it all on the table.
Sure.
It's me stalling.
Get stuff.
Currently in the UK, we've just had a speech from Keir Starmer, an announcement of a white paper about our immigration system and how it's going to change. And the thing that's really stood out and people are up in arms about is the speech that Keir Starmer gave, in particular one line where he talked about an island of strangers, and it's been likened to Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech, where he uses similar language and talks about a variation of an island of strangers. I've heard people from both sides. I've heard left people try and defend it. I've heard right-wingers defend it. I've heard left-wing people denounce it. I'm unsure what to think, so I was interested to hear what you think about that in particular. Do you think it's done that way deliberately, or?
Yeah, I think everything that he's doing on immigration is as a response to the polls which put reform further and further, give reform more and more numbers. I think every step he does is to try and appeal to those, rather than trying to say, do you know what? Let the right-wing voters argue amongst themselves with Tory and Reform. I'm going to try and collect the left-wing votes, which I appreciate is very difficult for him because he's already put himself as initially a centre-right politician, a prime minister, because he was sort of centre-left as a politician. But now
before
he's
he got elected,
centre-right prime minister. Now he's a far-right prime minister because he's trying to appeal to the in my opinion, a crowd that will never vote for him anyway.
Yeah. What would you
and
say?
that's what I think is the danger.
I'm going to do your role here, and this isn't what I believe necessarily. It's just an argument I've heard being made. What would you say to the people that are saying this is him delivering on an election promise?
But I don't. Well, I do understand that, but I think he's gone too far, and I think the way he's delivered it, like you said, the language that he's using, it's a very deliberate thing to whip up these fears. And, you know, he even did this tweet the other day, and I read it and I genuinely thought it was a parody, because he starts off by going, you know, you're fed up with immigration. I get it. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
You were directly appealing to a very specific group of people there, no matter how big or small they are. And this is the thing, I've sort of just said it, and this is the thing that baffles me, and I cannot believe that one of his top advisors, because generally these people...
Isn't it Pat McGowan is his number one, isn't it?
Well, I know most people get in this position through who, you know, it's, you know, you have friends in the right place as well, but generally they're also quite intelligent people, and I can't believe that not one of them has said they will never vote for you.
Yeah.
You can be as tough on immigration as you want.
It's not going to work.
But a Reform voter is never going to go into the polls and put Labour. Never. So why are you appealing to him? Why would I say that is? Because for Reform voters, most of their... and again, I know I'm putting words in people's mouths, and I appreciate that.
No, that's right. I just want us to explore it. I'm not trying to catch
for a lot of them, their whole mentality comes from this idea of, I don't have a lot, and it's because someone else is taking some as well.
Yeah.
Whereas Labour's policies are quite spread. So they do have a couple of policies that they're enacting that are targeting some of the richer people. The farming thing, which is controversial as it is, but the cuts on tax for private schools and stuff like that, VAT, sorry, on private schools. So there's a spread of policies, whereas for the Reform voter, generally it's, in my opinion, they want... And look, what I'm going to say is quite accusatory here.
Please do.
And this doesn't apply to all Reform voters by any stretch.
Yeah.
But I think the core Reform voters, they are...
It's racially
racist.
Yeah.
And they want, when they say they want Britain and British values and stuff, what they want is white. They want white British values. They say, I don't care about the colour. I think they do. The core ones.
I mean, look, I'm denied about whether I was going to talk about this, but I had an interaction with someone yesterday, didn't I, online? Someone that we both know that had a pop at the fact we have a podcast as well in the same breath.
Yeah.
But there was this thing on Twitter about Greg's, someone had got into Greg's haven't even done anything.
A Muslim man, presumably a Muslim man.
Presumably a Muslim man. And I actually rewatched the video. You don't see his hand at any point. You actually don't know what colour this person is. But they go in and they're looking at the Southern Fried Chicken.
So it's not even the main bakery section, by the way.
No, just like the hot food bit.
Yeah, so it's not even the sausage rolls bake section.
Greg's, basically, he's like, it would be really awesome if you guys could introduce not all halal, just a halal section of the hot food.
Literally a space of the shelf.
Yeah.
There's got a couple of items that I know are safe.
Because he said you're missing out on loads of sales from potential customers. And someone had quote tweeted it saying, if Greg's goes halal, then the country has lost. And then the person we know basically said exactly the same thing, quote tweeting it again. And so I responded saying, like, lost what? And we end up having a disagreement. And he ended up saying that it was British identity. And it's like, there's only...
These people can never identify British identity.
And I asked him, so what do you mean by British identity? Because from what I can tell, the guy sounds pretty British to me. And he's like, well, I'm not talking about whether that person's British. I'm talking about whether the business is British. But in my mind, based off their answers and using that phrase in particular, British identity, like, it's hard not to believe that that's what they're talking about.
But as I said to you, you almost want to say to if we were having a larger discussion, and I'm not going into it with this person because I know how that conversation will go, but you almost want to say to them, have you ever enjoyed a Chinese meal? Well, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because that's not British. Come here to Britain and open a non-British food chain. No. Have you ever enjoyed a curry?
Yeah.
You know, have you ever enjoyed whatever? the whole thing. You could even go, have you ever enjoyed a McDonald's?
And that's the thing.
Because that's American. So what the fuck are we doing here?
We don't even eat the traditional versions of those foreign foods.
No, they're very British.
We force them to create British versions of their meals. And like, as I've said, that person also worked for companies that sold halal products. Like, and I said to you, does he get angry every time he walks down a supermarket meat aisle because he sees a halal section? Like, I don't even notice it, to be honest with you. Like, and the thing is, as you said to me when we were first talking about it, it's like the Greg's vegan sausage roll. It will blow up for a bit and then people will forget about it.
Yeah, and it did blow up when Greg's did the vegan sausage roll, and now it's just a thing.
Yeah, it's just
and it takes up a tiny little section next to...
the only vegan product they sell, I think.
Yeah, and it's a tiny little bit next to the regular sausage roll.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal.
No. But yeah, like, I just think it's hard not to believe for the core of Reform voters that that's not what they're talking about.
Also, whenever you talk about British identity with these people, and the politicians, by the way, when they get quizzed on it, they just dance around saying white British, really.
Yeah, and like the point I made back to this person when they said it's about it being a British business, and it was like, but there's 4 million British Muslims in the UK, so to say that those people aren't part of the British identity, I find odd.
Also, and I'm going to make a comparison here because my partner and my mum are both gluten-free, or celiac, my mum.
Should we not cater to them?
Well, no, what I was going to say is, with the gluten-free stuff, sometimes we will go for a meal and we will just make sure that everything we order is gluten-free, so that I know, because I can eat gluten-free, she can eat gluten-free, that's fine. But if we get stuff that's not gluten-free, I can eat it, but she can't. And it's kind of that with the halal stuff. I can eat the halal meats, but someone else can't, so they don't know that it's safe for them.
No.
But if we put a little section out and go, this stuff's all halal, it doesn't mean I can't go anywhere near it. I can still eat it.
Yeah.
And now there's a little section that
you won't
someone else can eat.
And someone smacks it out your hand.
No, someone's not going to be like, have you ever read the Quran, mate?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah. It's just such an odd thing to be annoyed about. And it feels
it's rampant.
Like people look for a reason to hate people that aren't white.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's all that is.
We're regressing massively.
Yeah. And we talked about this off pod and we've danced around it, that we were worried this was going to be a really sad episode. So I'm sort of glad we spent half an hour just not talking about it, because it is really worrying. Like, the way in which I agree with what Keir Starmer said is it does feel like we have already become a country of strangers, like, and that's not because, in my opinion, of multiculturalism or because we've got 4 million British Muslims in this country. It's because we've all been driven to such desperation and hardship that we don't give a shit about anyone else. We only care about ourselves. And that allows us to be vulnerable to the message that it's them over there, those 4 million British Muslims, and however other million Hindus we might have in this country or other denominations, that are the problem, and not the people that are meant to be serving us or the people that are hoarding the wealth for themselves.
Yeah. It's just so worrying how backwards we're going, because also there's I know we've said it before, but homophobia and views on the LGBT as a wider thing are getting more aggressive. People are being more outwardly against them.
Nicky Bandini is
the football
love her. Fantastic football pundit.
Really good. She focuses on Italian football, right? Yeah. So
and she is a trans woman.
Yeah,
and she was
very insightful.
Incredible. Genuinely. She was on the Guardian Football Weekly podcast quite a while before she transitioned.
Okay.
And they never really addressed it until like maybe a couple of years after she transitioned, and they did an episode where they talked to her about it.
But they just never made a thing, kept having her on.
I remember the first episode where because she was known as, and I'm not doing this to dead name her, but she was called Nick Bandini, and now she's become Nicky Bandini. So a niche in space, like the next time she came, she hadn't been on for a while, and then suddenly they introduced her as Nicky Bandini. Her voice had changed, and I remember being like, oh, okay. And then that was it. That was the last I ever thought about it. But she was on one of the Match of the Day shows recently, and the amount of hate she got online is disgusting.
Let me guess, because the BBC are being woke,
that's not a woman,
and pushing her. Oh, yeah, no, that. Okay, yeah that stuff.
No, when someone said that was a clever way to do the diversity quota, someone said.
It's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was just like, I couldn't give a fuck what's between someone's legs when they're talking about football. Do you know what
Well,
I mean?
I know the whole
what they identify as. All I care about is the content they're giving me.
We've covered some of this stuff on the episodes before. You can go back and listen to. But for me, I'm always just grateful to get on any mainstream show to get journalists involved rather than ex-players, because with all due respect, there are some very, very clever, insightful ex-players who are very articulate, but on the whole, they just chat shit and they're like, well, you know, you get all the ex-United players coming on going, oh yeah, Inter Alex, all that shit. And it's just like, so many of them, I'm like, fuck me, you don't know what you're talking about. So when you get someone like
Rio Ferdinand, for example.
Oh, talk such shit. He
by the way,
he got embarrassed by Prince Harry, Prince William, sorry.
Yeah, I don't hate Rio Ferdinand, by the way. I don't necessarily
I just don't want to see him as a pundit.
I just don't think he's a particular...
Or a commentator.
Podcast, fine. Do it, like, all that's fine, but I don't think he should be one of the faces.
But what I was going to say, when they get someone like Nicky Bandini on, or James Horncastle...
The difference is night and day.
Insane.
Well, the thing is, because Nicky and Horncastle and any other journalist you've got on, particularly if they've been doing it for a while, has spent thousands of hours watching football games, covering football games, dissecting them, getting to know the players.
And presenting it to you in an insightful, in an accessible way.
And an articulate way as well.
That's what they do. So when they get on there, you know what they're talking about. They're actually offering you something that you
trust
maybe...
what they're telling you as well.
And also it might be something that you hadn't thought of before, because they're genuinely, it's actually insightful. So I've always got time to whenever... And the reason I mentioned James Horncastle is because he was one of my ones in recent years that whenever he's on a show, I will stop and listen.
Yeah.
Nicky Bandini's the same. I've heard her a couple of times on like radio as well, and
she's
it's like
fantastic.
I will stop and listen, particularly in the build up to the Champions League final with Inter Milan in there.
Oh yeah, her
do I want to know more about Inter
football
Milan? I'm going to go to people who know about Italian football, and she's one of them.
Absolutely,
100%.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not a massive fan of Jules Laurent, or whatever his name is, Julien Laurent.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I know.
Mostly because he just bum licks PSG. But he is actually...
I'm thinking of someone... I'm thinking of Filippo Clare.
Oh, yeah, no. But...
Because he hates PSG.
But he is actually insightful on French football. So again, in the build... So normally I'd avoid... But in the build-up to this Champions League final, I will listen to
Gillan Balake I used to like. But if he was chocolate, he'd be dipping himself.
Yeah, I think the same thing about him.
But... Again, as we're saying, he's knowledgeable about the football he's talking about.
Yeah, Barcelona in particular, but Spanish football in general. He knows.
Yeah, and he knows a lot of the players, and he knows coaches.
I know this is not the issue you wanted to bring it up, but I 100%. I always have time for experts.
We've led into it because we were talking about the fact that
Nicky Bandini got hate.
Yeah, and
outward hate,
and you had mentioned that we've been regressing in.
No, and we have. It's so more outwardly available, and so when someone stands up and says something that 20 years ago when we were growing up would have been, oh, you can't say that.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not saying it's an attack on free speech or anything, but it's like the views in the world were in a place where you couldn't come out and go, gay people are an atrocity. They shouldn't be married. That's a complete disgrace, and it downgrades marriage. You couldn't say that. Now you say that, and you have a whole corner supporting you and cheering you on and going, yes, finally someone's saying it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing we've ended up with where, like, and it's the trad wife thing, isn't it? That, like, traditionalism has become the rebellious thing because of what the woke mentality that people are like, well, we now believe in those traditional, air quotes, values, like the trad wife thing of a wife staying at home and, doing what would be the traditional role in the past, which was be the homemaker and raise the children while the husband goes out and earns money.
Yeah.
And like those women are seen as like trailblazers now.
But I'm going to ask you, I'm going to bring it back round to what sort of got us kicked off. Do you understand? This is 2 questions.
Yeah.
Do you understand why Keir Starmer has done what he's done and presented it in the way he's presented it? And do you think it's the right step? Obviously, for a country, you and I both agree that it's the wrong step.
Yeah.
But in terms of for their own political gain, Labour, do you think it's the right step?
No, I don't. As you said, it's not going to work. It's not going to win over those voters. And, like, it's missing the point of why the non-core reform voters are voting for reform. So outside of that core that we talk about, that we believe personally is racially motivated, I think the rest of them are angry, and I think they're angry because of the reasons I mentioned earlier, that we're all so desperate and like we're all being squeezed further and further, and we've got less and less, and you've then got Keir Starmer, who 5 years ago was saying the complete opposite to what he's saying
immigration
now,
was a net positive on the
and that
country.
we needed to change the mentality around that. And what that then feeds into is that you can't trust politicians, and that's the core of it. And so then when Keir Starmer does this, going against something that seems like one of his core values before becoming elected, just feeds into that narrative, which then feeds into Nigel Farage's like zeitgeist feeling of like, I'm the guy you can trust. You know, if you elect me.
This is one thing. There's one thing that stood out to me as well in Labour's proposed reforms to the immigration policies. So there's a couple of things. Obviously, they're going to remove the right to apply for settled status after 5 years and move it to 10 years.
Okay.
But they don't say whether that's going to be like starting now or whether if you're on 4 years now
whether
and you were hoping to apply next year, fuck you, you're going to have to wait another 6. But there's one aspect that I agree with, but I have big issues around it.
Yeah.
So in terms of integrating, I don't believe in integrating because I don't believe that we are one fit, British identity. What is the British identity? What are we integrating into? I don't know. But the language, I do agree. Like if I moved to another country,
totally.
I would learn. But
Totally.
my issue with, while I do agree that people should be making an effort to learn the language, one, how do you judge that and how do you judge that they've improved? Because obviously in conversational, you and I could have a conversation now in like French and then 2 years have another conversation. We could go, oh, that was a lot better. But how do you mark that down for this purpose of an immigration paper? But if you go to some of the Scandinavian countries, and like you emigrate, particularly as under a refugee status, one of the things they offer you is language lessons.
Yeah.
But we're not offering language lessons, so people have got to go on their own back to learn it, which I'm not against in principle.
See, I did retweet something and it got community noted because I think it was something along. It was talking about the fact Sweden gives free lessons. Apparently, we do in some areas of the country. Yeah. So just to, like in some places,
what I'm saying is, if that's going to be their new policy, is it also going to come with
probably not
the offers of lessons, even if we offer reduced lessons? It's probably not. So it's like, how are we expecting these people to learn? So it's not. That's one element that I agree with in principle.
I think one of the things we would need to get better at, in my opinion, is you do end up with places like Birmingham, for example, where you've got a high concentration of people from the same faith and the same sort of ethnic background. I think we need to find a way of making that happen less. Not that I don't want those people to congregate together or have a community, but for it to be better integrated, that it is more comfortable for everyone to live, because they obviously don't feel comfortable.
But I think the issues of integration there, and I say this based on not just on my own like observation, by the way, on talking to people, weirdly, particularly Africans, that I've had this interaction with, African women more than any. But I've had this interaction with a few and some Asians, but it's mostly Africans, weirdly enough, who have said that they feel very actively in certain parts of their own communities not welcomed.
Really?
Like basically the hardcore reform voters who will not give them the time of day, and they see so there's one woman I was speaking to, because she's a middle-aged African woman. There's certain people that will see her and just assume demanding attitude, all the stereotypes that go with it. Therefore, there's already a barrier to integration. Yeah. And I feel like for the integration to truly take hold, those need to go. You can't say we want you to welcome into our community, but then totally. We don't want you in our community.
I think it makes teaching about...
So, of course, they congregate together. Sorry,
totally. I completely understand why they do it, because they don't feel comfortable enough outside of those communities. That's exactly why they're doing it. So I think we need to do more for them to feel comfortable, and I feel it's a similar answer I'd have to most things, which is we need to teach people from a young age about people from those cultures and ensure that at a young age, because the thing is, like, kids don't feel these things inherently. Do you know what I mean? Like, white British kids aren't born hating a Muslim British kid. Do you know what I mean? It's because of stuff they'll hear growing up from their family members, parents, people.
I'm all for schools doing like, just to focus on like the Muslim faith. I'm all for schools doing special educational stuff during the weeks of like Ramadan.
But yeah, 100%.
Because equally, just because they have that thing, it doesn't mean you can't have all of your white Christian
ones. The problem we'd run
ones.
into though is like, to you and me, that sounds amazing. Like, get kids involved with learning about Diwali, Ramadan, all these things. Parents will be up in arms about it, won't they? Or some parents
but there's all this thing of like, well, where's the thing, it's all celebrating them. Where's our... And it's like...
We do it.
Every Easter, every Christmas, every November, there's plenty. And it's this whole... We sort of touched upon it like yesterday when we were discussing this interaction you had online. It's always the same thing. It's every year when they come out and they go, you can't say Happy Christmas anymore. It's like, it's not true. It's just not true. You're fighting an issue. I
used to parrot that when I was younger, and then I realised I'd never heard anyone say you couldn't say it.
You're fighting an issue that's not real.
Yeah.
And I
you're fighting an invisible enemy.
Yeah.
That you're being... But the problem is...
You're being told there is an invisible
That's what I'm saying,
yeah.
They're being told that these people exist that are coming for your your values in
not once.
Quotes.
And also, with all of my Muslim friends...
And also, Christmas is one day a year. Do you know what I mean? It's not... Like,
in retail, it's like 6 months.
No, totally. Trust me, I get that. But in terms of like... And we're not a religious country anymore, by and large.
No.
And no one I know celebrates Christmas because of the religious aspect of it. They celebrate it because
it's dinner and it's presents.
It's
and
the magical
family.
time of year. Yeah.
No, but all of my Muslim friends and stuff, any time... Like when I was at uni and stuff, I had quite a few Muslim friends.
Yeah.
Because I'm hip and I'm cool and I'm left wing.
I get it.
And at Christmas, I would say Happy Christmas. Like just before we went away for Christmas break, it'd be like Happy Christmas, have a good Christmas, and they'd say it back.
Yeah.
They were never like, "It's Happy Holiday." It's very insensitive.
You sick fuck.
That wasn't a thing. No. So when you actually talk to these people,
and
it's
also,
not a real issue.
One thing I found is I've worked with people because in retail you get a real mix of like diversity and. Like I worked with one lad who was Muslim, and I used to ask him questions constantly, like particularly when Ramadan came up, because I didn't know anything. But like we worked around Ramadan for him, so he was able to go and take part in all the things, and I would ask him about it. And like I remember saying to him at one point, like, if I ever get on your nerves, please say so, because I don't mean it in an offensive way. I'm just genuinely interested. And he liked it, and it was like I worked with loads of Sri Lankan people. I'd ask them about their culture, their religion, and I find it fascinating. I love learning about different people.
I always, when I heard about and saw some of the stuff from like on the holy day when you'd come together for the feast at the mosque, like for post sunset.
Yeah.
Oh, they always looked incredible, and I was like, I want to be a part of that.
What's Ramadan night? And he was like, shit, but the food is incredible.
Yeah.
And I was like, fair enough. He's like, it's worth it for the food.
And when you go to everyone brings something, and it it's
and
incredible.
It's the same as like I worked with loads of Tamil people when I worked for the co-op, and I remember asking them like, what are you going to do at Christmas? Because obviously we've got Christmas Day off, and he was like, well, there's a community of us that all come from like similar villages in Sri Lanka, so we hire a hall every Christmas Day, and everyone just brings food and presents and. We all just have
do their own Christmas,
basically, and it was like, it sounds amazing, to be honest.
But just because my point is, just because they're doing that, it doesn't mean we can't do our thing.
Totally, and like, I don't know, like obviously it's not a problem for us. We see these things as adding to the social tapestry.
Diversity is the flavour of life. We both agree.
I know all my favourite foods aren't British food. Do you know what I mean? I mean, like
only British in the colonial sense.
There's a special place in my heart for some of the old traditional British foods, like bangers and mash. A good roast dinner is
pie. I'm a big pie fan.
100% pie and mash. But I would say, by and large, my most favourite foods are foods that aren't traditionally British.
Yeah. I mean, we went for a Thai last night. I love a Thai.
Do you know? No, I've been to one Thai restaurant. I prefer a Chinese myself. But
I loved it. We had we had a garlic pork, ginger chicken. Chili and basil chicken. We had cashew chicken. We had like a rice noodle dish, like an egg noodle dish. We had sizzling steak.
Are you chopsticking it?
We had rice. No, they didn't have chopsticks with it. It's all British. It's all English people. But it's all gluten free. Although questions over it, in all honesty, this morning.
Okay.
But it was all, it was all gluten free, and we were just able to eat it. There was no like, just to bring us back to our other board. But yeah, it was really, and I just it's so good. I don't want to go into a Chinese kitchen, with all due respect, and see an Englishman. That's where my racism comes into. That's where my racial bias is.
Luckily, they've been in the country long enough that you could get an English Asian man doing your food.
Well, do you know what I like? I watched this show, Race Across the World, and the series that's on at the moment, there's a woman in it, or was in it, spoilers, she's in it who's of Chinese descent, of Chinese origin, like heritage, but she's the most London-sounding person you've ever met. And when she went over there, the race started in China, and everyone just assumed she could speak Mandarin, because they would look at her and be like, "You get it?"
Yeah.
Not a word. She was like, no. She was like, when I was younger, my mum used to speak a bit to me. She's like, but that's fucking long. But as soon as she opened her mouth, it's like, you're so London.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
You are so London.
Yeah.
So there's not a doubt in my mind that you can't speak Mandarin. I believe it.
No, but we famously here don't speak other people's languages, do we?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just some.
But yeah, to go back to Keir Starmer and what's going on there, like my biggest fear, and I feel like we're getting, and I've said it before, that I feel like we're sleepwalking into it, but I feel like we could end up with Nigel Farage as Prime Minister.
Do you know what my biggest fear is?
What?
In terms of that, is that we're so worried about having Nigel Farage as Prime Minister that we don't notice and we don't fully appreciate Keir Starmer turning into Nigel Farage. Yeah. And that we end up with a Nigel Farage as Prime Minister in everything but name.
Yeah, well, the thing is, as we've said, he's taking the wrong message from what's happening. He's made it very clear he's willing to do everything except go against right-wing values. I don't know. For me, it makes him worse than anything we've had recently.
And he's talking about cutting down on immigration on the end. Oh, sorry.
Because you can say what you like about Boris Johnson or Rishi Sunak or any of them. They were pretty honest about, particularly Boris Johnson. We knew who Boris Johnson was. We knew what he was offering. We were sold a very different. And the thing is, I knew going in that Starmer wasn't going to be a lefty prime minister.
No, we both said it on here.
But I naively hoped that maybe once he was in power, he realised that certain
slowly
measures
implement
need to be
some.
taken. Yeah. But it's been very clear that he's not going to do that. And I think his legacy will end up being opening the door to even worse levels of service and damage to
there's
the country.
Two things I'd say as well about the NHS. So he's talked about tightening immigration for the NHS, and senior people in the NHS have come out and said the NHS runs on immigrants, nurses, doctors, obviously all the porters and stuff, but literally nurses and doctors, we rely on foreign nationals. And Keir Starmer's response to that is, well, let's we focus on training our own, but we need to address the issue of why aren't we training that way? Why aren't there more English people, 100%. British people training to be doctors? That's an issue that needs addressing before you even start addressing.
Well, because the thing is, you could probably argue the root to that problem would be the amount of, and I know that there should be hoops in the way of becoming a doctor or someone in the medical profession, of course, but in terms of it's clearly so off-putting, and I think higher education has been devalued to a point where people do almost see it as pointless.
And that was partly through attacks of senior politicians in recent years as well.
And then the cost as well. I think
the price.
The cost gets to a level where, unless you come from a family of means, you can't necessarily risk doing it.
We did an episode on this not too long ago that you can go back and listen to, maybe last year, where I spoke about my own experience, and I said the price now would put me off going to university. The idea of paying 30 grand for a 3-year course. And if you're doing a medical degree, it's going to be even more. I know you get subsidies and stuff for the courses you're choosing, but it would put me off and I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and you can't say, I don't disagree with the idea of us being less reliant on foreign workers.
No, I'm not against it.
But if you don't, as you said, address any of the underlying issues.
Right now, we're going to take out all of the foreign doctors and nurses and we're going to have nothing to replace them with.
No.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And it's not even like we can say, oh, right now there's an immediate plan in place. So in 10 years, we've got the replacement. In 15 years,
Well,
we've got the... There's not.
No.
They're not coming through anywhere.
No.
So we're addressing... Yeah, we're not addressing the right issues. If you want to address the issues they're addressing, you need to address other things first.
I just think in the situation we're in,
or alongside
you have to give... In the situation Starmer's in my opinion, we know going right wing won't work. Staying central isn't going to work because nothing's going to change. The only genuine way to turn the needle and to turn people into support again towards Starmer would be to... but the problem is, even now, I think it might not work for him. It would have to be a new leader of the Labour Party, would be to go more left-wing and to do more social economic reform and investment.
I think the really obvious thing as well, if I was an advisor, and I appreciate that there's a lot of polls and maybe, look, the public in most countries, Britain being no exception, are idiots.
Yeah.
And they don't always get what's happening. Well, I don't always get what's happening. But I do think that just speaking to sort of everyday people like you and I, more you, obviously, you know, when I say everyday people, the butlers I speak to, the maids, the cooks, not the gardeners. I refuse to go out there. That's just hideous. I'm not getting dirty. I know they've all got reputations as well. Gardeners, pool boys. I'm not going anywhere near them. They'll steal your woman.
Understandable.
But a big part of the reason why the Tories were voted out overwhelmingly last year. Oh no, this year. Fuck, it's been... last year. Fuck. Time moves so quickly. It's mostly Donald Trump just moving things along so quickly.
Yeah.
Was because we were all feeling the benefits and people realised what they were, the benefits of 14 years of Tory austerity.
Yeah.
So Starmer coming in and doing Tory austerity...
Well, especially considering he spent 6 years in leadership...
criticising it.
Lambasting it, yeah. And I think the problem is he's put himself in a position where I think he's fucked whatever he does. Like, even if he went full left-wing, I don't think people would see it as genuine. And the only way it would work is if you saw quite immediate, like, positives from it. If he goes more right-wing, he's going to continue to alienate the Labour base.
But that's it. All he's... I know we've already both said that the people he's targeting are not going to vote for him.
No.
But the people who are vote for him are now not going to vote for him. Every step he takes away, he's losing more votes. He's not gaining
all
any.
He did, like, I don't know if you watched P&Qs, was Farage was like, oh, I welcome what the Prime Minister said in his speech and the stuff in the White Paper, but actually I think he needs to go further.
Yeah.
So all he's done is puts Farage in a more strategically strong position.
Because you've basically said to Farage and his campaigners, Farage is right.
He's setting the terms. Whatever he comes out with going forward, Keir Starmer's going to get led around by his nose to, I don't know, pick up the scrap or attempt to pick up the scraps, and it's not going to work.
No.
And he's just going to be made to look like a bit of a cuck, to be honest.
It just seems like a really... Never mind the outcome that I think will affect the country.
And that's outside of like the Israel stuff as well.
Well, I was going to say, never mind the outcome of what I think will affect the country. Just politically, I can't get my head around these decisions that he's making.
It doesn't make sense.
Like I said, he's not gaining any votes and he's just losing votes.
Yeah.
And so I can't understand it.
And he's also done a very efficient job alongside Pat McGowan since getting the leadership of purging the party of the majority of its left
proper left wing, yeah.
So, like I said recently, like if the Labour MPs were sensible, they would gather together and kick him out immediately and get behind. I don't think Angela Rayner has any hope. I think
she's too closely tied to him. It's a bit like when Boris Johnson went.
She's his deputy PM, and I've lost a lot of respect for her by the fact she stayed silent during a lot of this, because I think, like when we talked about the Rachel Zegler stuff, like this, like if there's ever a moment to use your platform and stand on, like 10 toes down is the phrase now, isn't it? Of like,
yeah, it's when Netanyahu comes out and says, "I'm gonna flatten Gaza."
Yeah, like if there's ever a time to like put fucking 10 toes down and go, no, this is what I believe in, fuck my career, fuck everything else, it's when you're deputy prime minister. And
record number of children are being reported as dying from starvation.
Yeah.
Never mind how those last few days and minutes are for the children. How for the families that are watching. Not that they've got many families left, because they're all fucking dead as well.
Yeah.
Horrendous. utterly horrendous and unforgivable.
Yeah.
Indefensible.
So like, and that's what I said. Like we were talking about, that's outside of the Israel stuff where he made the like. I don't even know if he meant to say it, but he said it. That whole like they're within international law when it all first started kicking off to withhold aid and stuff. And it's like, but he's not like we all know he was a lawyer. He was head of the public prosecution service. He knows international law. He knew what he was saying was a lie.
Yeah.
So like. And the fact, like, it's come out that we're still selling them stuff we shouldn't be selling them. So, and that's on top of selling the stuff we definitely shouldn't be selling them.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's all horrendous. And like I said, I'm going to sound like a broken record. I cannot fathom why he's doing it. What does he think he's gaining by doing the things he's doing, by taking the decision? Because it's not benefiting the country. That's obvious. Like, just in the immediate, in the long term, unless he's willing to address other issues alongside the immigration issues, he's not going to benefit the country. So it's all political choices. That much seems obvious to me.
Yeah.
But they're just horrendous political choices. They're not gaining anything and you're just losing everything. I can't
Like, I've even some people
it.
have said, like, maybe there's some wild conspiracy to lead Keir Starmer into being like the worst Labour PM in history and just decimate the Labour Party, because like we just had a historic like loss for the Conservatives. I think we're headed towards a historic loss
for Labour
as well, and like we don't know what that looks like. Like, it is possible that Reform just sweeps up the vast majority of those votes. It sounds like the Greens, there's particularly one Green, it's the only sort of, I don't know that much about him. I've watched a little bit of him. He seems like a nice bloke and seems to be talking about the things I would like to see from the Greens in terms of being more aggressive, being more front-footed, going on more podcasts and stuff. His name's Zach Polanski. He's trying to become...
Is he running for leader of the Greens? Yeah,
he
I've
is.
seen him.
And he's out there at the moment. And like that's what I've been calling for someone on the left to do that.
I think the danger of what will happen is that over the next few years, over the rest of the premiership of Keir Starmer, people on the right will vote for Reform. Yeah. Reform will pick up all the Tory votes.
Yeah.
And people on the left will either split between Lib Dem and Green, probably leaning Lib Dem.
Because they'll be seen as a more credible group.
There'll be a lot of like left-wingers who will stubbornly stick it out. And, you know, like when, as you were saying earlier, we hope, when Keir Starmer gets in, it'll be hoping that the next person will be different. We're just going to stick with them because what the next person it's going to... And they'll stubbornly stick with it. And so the left vote will be split.
Yeah.
And the right vote will be far more concentrated. That's the danger.
Yeah, and like,
and I think it, just to be clear, I think it is dangerous to have someone like Nigel Farage in charge of our country. A man who is blatantly racist.
No, I know.
Who is blatantly who pins everything on his racism, on his dislike of everyone else, by the way. A man who is so obsessed with relevancy that, like most politicians, and I appreciate it's not unique to him, he's happy to flip-flop on certain issues just to stay relevant. A man who's danced between political parties over the years like musical chairs just to try and get himself elected in any way, shape or form, who's started political parties, leapt from political parties. But I think his isolationist views on this country will send us down the absolute shitter.
Yeah, and the scary thing is, I can't imagine outside. I know he wants to come after the NHS, but outside of that, I don't know what.
No, and I know
like.
he has spoken about other issues, but the only issues that I know from him and his parties are immigration, huge, privatise the NHS, which we both agree is like fucking disastrous. It'd be very little left in this country for me to enjoy. And beyond that, it's like, okay, but what are your thoughts on tackling X, Y, Z? It's all basically, it's just all we call virtue signaling, and you know, people on the right are very quick to call out people on the left for virtue signaling, but it's all quote unquote woke issues.
Did you see his most recent?
Let's roll back all the woke issues. That's
interaction about the immigration numbers and stuff like he was asked like face to face by a reporter. So like, what numbers would you want to get it down? He's like, well, you know, I don't know the numbers, so come back to me in 4 years. And it was like, so his opinions are a mile wide and inch deep. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't know what he's going to do. He has absolutely no idea. And actually,
it's interesting that there was a report released recently that under Labour, there was one report that said that under Labour immigration is down
Yeah.
quite heavily down, by the way. So behind the scenes, before they've come out and publicly gone, oh, let's fuck off, immigration.
Is improving.
It's already down.
Yeah.
Just from what they're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But there was also a report the other day that said that, you talk about all these violent crimes and criminals that actually over the last 10 years, and I guess some credit has to go to the Tory government for this, for the many prime ministers we've had under the Tory government, that violent crimes are down significantly.
Yeah.
They're like 50% lower or something.
What, under Labour?
No, just over the last 10 years, like from crimes 10 years ago to now, they're like 50% down on sort of like what you'd call day-to-day violent crimes, muggings, beatings, robberies, stuff like that, but like armed robberies and all that kind of stuff.
The reason I sound baffled is because I know knife crime is like the worst it's ever been, isn't it? So
yeah, but all the other crimes are clearly
interesting.
Up. So yeah,
I know shoplifting's the worst it's ever been as well.
Yeah, but again, that's just through need rather than.
Of course it is. It's
back in the day, there were some people who were like back when I was working in the shop. There were some people who would shoplift because they needed it, but most of them were just like kleptomaniacs doing it for the thrill.
Yeah.
Or drug dealers, drug addicts doing it for the drugs, which I know they do need it for them.
Yeah.
But when I say need, I'm talking about people who can't eat without it, families who can't feed babies without it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like we've said before, if you see a woman stealing baby formula.
You didn't, yeah.
Yeah, you did. Just keep walking.
Same with like baby clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
In a retail shop, as much as I don't want to encourage shoplifting, but
if you're providing
stuff's so low right now, but the value of everything in terms of real world, what we're getting for our money is so low right now.
Yeah.
That how can people afford? Yeah, I get it.
Do you think Starmer makes it to the next election? Because Labour notoriously isn't a particularly they don't tend.
They're
to
not very reactionary. They're not.
No.
I think he does, but I think that's just a stubbornness from within the Labour.
I think he's just got an iron grip over Labour, and I just don't think there'll be. If he gets any rumblings of this person's trying to lead a coalition,
it'll probably be something that I never saw coming. Like with Boris. Every couple of months I was like, surely that finishes him. Surely that gets him out. And it just didn't. And then in the end, it was the Partygate thing.
Do you reckon it could end up being like an accumulation of just...
I think it would just be something that I never saw coming that will get him out.
If we quickly looked at the council election results, you would have thought something like this would shake a few leaves. Because so Reform ended up with 677 council seats, which is an increase of 677. The Lib Dems got 370, which is an increase of 163. The Conservatives got 319, which is a decrease.
And Labour got like 100 and something, didn't they?
674. Labour got 98 seats, which is a decrease of 187. Independents were down 20, but the Greens were also up 44 seats to 79, which is encouraging as well. I mean, I think for me, what I'd like to see in the next election would be some form of coalition government that didn't involve reform, but I have a fear whatever happens, if we were in that position, they'd be one of the larger parts of a coalition government. But ideally without them being...
Can I just say, given Farage's history with the Conservative Party, he would his ego would be filled so much if he could... be the one to save the Tories, get them into power through a coalition, to turn up and be like, you need me.
Yeah.
He would have absolutely loved that.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think he wants to be the head honcho.
Yeah, he wants to be Bertie Big Bollocks.
But yeah, I think you're probably right. Starmer probably does make it to the next election. He shouldn't. Any sensible party with him in charge at this stage would be like, well, this isn't going to go well. But I'd also like to see a growth of like the independent left, like joining together and not necessarily being part of one party, not necessarily under the banner of Jeremy Corbyn, which is what everyone seems to want. Because I also think and I've been really guilty of constantly bringing Jeremy Corbyn up, because for me it's this glaring example of, a non-charismatic, grumpy old man that believes in people and investing in people.
What we could have had.
And what we could have had. But I do think we need to sort of, to a degree, forget about Jeremy Corbyn and find...
Because it doesn't matter what's been and gone, the fact is the public image is there for a lot of these people. It's carved. It's not changing.
Like, there's even the moment. I mean, I can play the clip if you want because I did get it. Did you see the Liv Saville moment? She's an MP for Plaid Cymru, and she's like the leader of Plaid Cymru in Westminster. She asked Keir Starmer a question at Prime Minister Questions, and here it is. Once it loads.
Isabel Roberts.
This Prime Minister once spoke of compassion and dignity for migrants and for defending free movement. Now he talks of islands of strangers and taking back control. Somebody here has to call this out, Mr. Speaker. It seems the only principle he consistently defends is whichever he last heard in a focus group. So I ask him, is there any belief he holds which survives a week in Downing Street?
Yes, the belief that she talks rubbish.
And next,
it's a good comeback, to be fair.
He's getting a lot of shit about it because, in particular,
because she's raised real issues and he's
remember when Jeremy
downplayed them.
Corbyn was leader of Labour and he got caught mouthing "stupid woman" or something like that,
stupid cow or something.
Yeah, and people are saying so he gets that was in the news for like a week and on the front page of papers, but Starmer gets to behave like that.
Yeah,
it's an incredibly. And like, what's worse is Rachel Reeves was one of the people that led the charge on speaking that disrespectfully to a woman against Corbyn, and she's fucking laughing in hysterics after Starmer.
My opinion of Keir Starmer is very low.
Yeah,
there's very little he can do that would make it lower right now. Yeah. The fact that obviously the Israel Gaza thing I've said from the start has always been very low opinion of him. The fact that he's now pandering to a far right who will never vote for him, and I have to keep saying it because I understand from a quick glance face value. You see like she said, you see a focus group and you go, all the people hold these really far right beliefs, and you go, oh fuck, we better. They're never going to vote for you. No. The ones who hold those beliefs are not ever going to say no. Forget about them. Just focus on not to use the old sporting analogies, but just keep doing you. Play your game to the best of your ability, and hope that the results speak for themselves. So yeah, him doing that, if I'm honest, does not change my opinion of him. It's still pretty low. What do you make of it?
I thought it was a really shitty way to behave at the dispatch box. Like, I have a real issue with
the rules around the dispatch box.
Yeah, and like I don't know how he's actually got away with that because you're not normally allowed to defame someone in the dispatch box or in Parliament. You
can call him anything you want as long as you call him my honourable friend.
Yeah,
is my honourable friend a cunt? You go, well, that's fine. But if you go, I don't
think that's in the rules. I don't think you can do that.
I disagree. I've never heard.
Well, no, like that bloke got chucked out for saying "dodgy Dave" and refusing to take it back, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. By the way, sorry, I lost my train of thought. No, I agree with you. The whole thing of when Boris Johnson was in and he like blatantly lied, like it was. There's evidence of him saying one thing on camera,
and then the next he
said something else, and then said, "I never said that. I never knew about that." And he's literally on camera talking about it a week earlier or something.
Yeah.
And people were trying to call him out, and they were like, "Please, you're calling him a liar." And that's it's like, but there's the video evidence of him lying.
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, you can't say that." And it's like, well, but if someone's lying, you've got to be able to get.
If you can, absolutely, without a doubt.
So yeah, I'm with it. It's all stupid. It's all daft.
But yeah, that's the lay of the land at the moment, mate.
It's the lay of the British land.
Yeah, it's not much better elsewhere.
It is not. Although I did in Australia had their elections recently.
Yeah.
And the leader of the opposition, a conservative, right-wing politician, lost his seat. Didn't just lose the election, but he lost his seat.
Oh, wow.
And it's widely believed that that's in no small part to the fact that he's come out in support of Donald Trump and some of Donald Trump's policies, and the fact that he's aligned himself with that, and the Australian people kind of went, nah, mate.
We're not into that.
We're all, every country's got their own right, but, bro, don't be, Trump's a fucking dick, and we all know it.
I like the Aussies. They're good people.
They're all right.
Yeah.
They're all right. They get some things wrong.
They've got some shit creatures over there.
Like I wouldn't
kangaroo,
and that you will fight.
It's not really a fight if you knock them out in one punch.
And I've always said I will never ever get over. I will never not react when someone says, I might wear my thongs tomorrow. And you're like,
They're
sorry?
talking about their sandals.
Sorry,
aren't
they're
they?
talking about their sandals.
Yeah.
But
What are those?
I was like, excuse me?
My phone.
That must have confused the shit out of them. They're like, why is this man talking about flip-flops?
Baby, I said I like the way.
They're like, I don't know.
That's an absolute rammer, by
that
the way.
is. And no one's ever
Like-
walked sexily in flip-flops, by the way. So they must have
You've
been
never
really...
seen me wearing
They must have been
flip-flops.
really confused, the Aussies.
You clearly haven't been paying attention when I've had my flip-flops on.
It's true. I'm looking elsewhere.
Especially when I'm just wearing flip-flops.
The eye's drawn to the waist, and I can't lie.
But yeah, no, guys, it's nice to be back. It's nice to have Jake back with me.
Yeah, boy.
You're back for like, what is it, just under a month? And then you're away again?
No, 28th of May I go.
Oh, yeah, so less than a month.
And then I'm away for basically a month.
Disgusting behaviour. That's not why I said
Disgusting!
it is disgusting. But guys, let us know what you think. Is there anything you're hopeful about at the moment? What do you agree with us with what we think about Keir Starmer and his speech? Do you think it is using deliberately the same language as Enoch Powell?
Do you think us and political commentators are overreacting to the speech? Do you think we're making something out of nothing?
Yeah.
How can they do that?
They can do that quite easy. I like the way you did that there. If you point to the screen, they'll know because it'll be there. You can message us on Facebook at Crossing Swords. You can contact us on... I don't know why I'm saying contact us for anything. I'm lost it. Let me start again.
Damn it. It's going so well.
Point at the screen again, Jake. You can find us on Facebook at Crossing Swords, on Twitter at Swords Crossing, on Instagram and TikTok at Crossing Swords_podcast, and you can email us at crossingswords19@gmail.com.
If you don't line that up,
Lick me, daddy.
that's not going to look... It's not going to look like I'm licking the thing. It's just going to look like I reached out and licked.
No, but I think it would look better for the clip if I just have you going...
Just Steph has a real problem with, I do this...
If that's the face you pull, mate, then I feel sorry for her.
I like doing this exaggerated wink. Like when someone goes like, oh, I know, or, in the nose, I kind of go... She's like, put your tongue away. It's like, what's this?
Yeah, that was an
Close your
unnecessary
mouth. Should I
No, but
close your
you
mouth?
could do an exaggerated wink without opening your mouth that wide. And the headbutt in the microphone.
But I like the old, I've got you.
Yeah. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like it. She hates it.
fair enough.
Hates it. I didn't even get to use my favourite new soundbite.
What's that?
Shall I save it for next week and just hope that I get to use it then?
No, go on. I know you how much you want to use it.
Well, I do only in context though, so I don't know. But this is... Look,
I
I'm
think
gonna
you're an
say-
incredibly smart man.
Thank you. But I just wanted to say something really poignant and clever, which I didn't do this week. I do most weeks though, so maybe next week and then drop.
Sometimes my genius is... It's almost frightening.
And Jake, I think...
And on that bombshell, it's time to end.
Bye.